All right.
Definitely.
Do you want to do the intro or to this one? You want me to do it?
Sure, I'll try.
You try.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Financial Advocate Podcast. Today, it is me, Ryan Stark, leading it off, and I'm here with Colin Meeks, and we're going to be talking about death without a will in Maryland.
It's sad. The Queen of Soul passed away here recently. Obviously, she lived in Detroit. Our practice is in Maryland, so we're very in tune with the way things work in Maryland, but a lot of these laws are federal, so we just wanted to go through and talk to you about why estate planning and having simple legal documents is an important thing. So the first thing, Aretha Franklin passed away. She had an estimated $80 million estate, and she had no legal documents. She did not have a will. She did not have a trust. She had no instruction booklet as to how she wanted things to go, and that's been all over the news. So we're sort of sitting here thinking, what's a good topic for our podcast, and how can we bring that to our listeners? So we thought, let's talk about that a little bit. So this happens a lot. We hear a lot about celebrities passing away without any legal documents. Recently, it's been Prince and Casey Kasem, James Brown. Ryan, who else do we have?
Marilyn Monroe, Jerry Garcia, Heath Ledger, Elvis Presley, are just a few other names of really famous people who just seem to never get any documents in place.
Yeah, and you don't have to have $80 million. You don't have to have $8 million. You don't even have to have $800,000 to have good legal planning. So that's what we want to hit on today. Everybody should, at the bare minimum, have a will. If you have assets that you want to go somewhere, you should have a will. On our website, and we'll post to the show notes, we have this flow chart that says death without a will in Maryland. And it's kind of funny, it's kind of scary, it's kind of, if you don't have a will, it sort of takes you through who's going to get what you have. And it's based on your family, and if you've been married, if you've had children, and it just takes you down through the whole thing. So take a look at that, and that tells you why you should really have a will. So that your property goes to who you want it to go to and when you want it to go to. I will tell you this: we through proper beneficiary planning, and one of the things we do in our planning process is we take a look at all your beneficiaries. And what we find a lot of times with newer clients is that things aren't the way they think they are. They might think that they have their beneficiaries set up a certain way, and when it turns out when we call the companies or get the forms, it's completely different. So the first step in making sure that your money is going to go to where you want it to go is to verify those beneficiaries. The second step is then to take a look to see what kind of legal documents you need. So Ryan, what kind of legal documents are we typically having recommended to our clients?
If you want to dodge probate, if you have a certain amount of assets, you might be looking at something like a trust. That would be probably, not everybody needs one, but it is something that you can use to pass a large amount of money outside of probate and keep it specific so you can make sure the beneficiary gets what they want and how you want them to get it.
Right. And again, we don't do legal documents. We're not attorneys. We don't draft the documents. We have a pretty good network of folks we deal with, but we know the basics of it and how they work. One of our podcasts we did a while ago was talking about a trust, and you can think of a trust just as a box. And the box is, what you put in it and what you take out of it makes up how the trust works. So, that might be one of the documents that you have. But getting back to Aretha Franklin, it says that she has four surviving sons. And within a couple weeks of her passing away, they're sort of scrambling around looking for what to do next as far as who's in charge and what did she want. And they've all filed paperwork with the county where she passed away, but there's really, without that will, without that legal document, it's all sort of guesswork at this point. And if you can imagine, dumping out a huge thing of Legos on a table and trying to build something. Well, what are you trying to build? Where does everything go? How do you put it all together? Having no instructions. I mean, basically having no instructions is like having no will. And it really, it stresses out a family beyond what you can ever imagine when, first of all, going through losing a family member is very devastating, but then second of all, if it's not written out, trying to figure out, what exactly did mom want, or what exactly did dad want us to do with all this stuff? And it just doesn't take a whole lot of time on the front end of things to go through the proper planning channels to get that done. And that way, it sort of puts you can put like a bow around your entire financial plan to make sure that your assets go to who you want them to go to, how you want them to go to them, and when you'd like that to happen. So having a will is very, very advantageous. Ryan, what other stuff do we typically see with people when they are trying to figure out, going through financial planning, and they're trying to name beneficiaries? What other considerations are there?
I think, especially because we deal with special needs, something we would think about is whether you do need that trust. A lot of people don't need it because the exemption amount is above $5 million in terms of paying taxes, so you may not need a trust for the amount of money you have, but it's still important in order for the special needs child to be able to continue to receive government benefits. So that's another piece of the puzzle that it could fit in there.
Right. And I remember going back in the mid-90s when I got into the financial planning business right out of college. The asset level for being able to protect things from estate taxes was only $600,000. So we were seeing a lot of people going out and doing legal planning because anything over $600,000, they were worried about estate taxes. Now, don't get me wrong, $600,000 is a lot of money. But in today's day and age with 401ks and real estate the way it's going up and people accumulating things, it doesn't take a whole lot for an estate to get over $600,000. So since then, tax laws have changed, estate tax laws have changed, and like Ryan said, now you can have over $5 million per person. So we're not really seeing the legal planning going into effect for estate tax reasons, but what we're seeing for when we go through planning for kids with special needs or trying to pass assets on to kids to keep them from spending the money right away, we're seeing a lot of trust work and legal documents in that arena. So, but the bottom line is it just, when we meet with somebody, we have a checklist of things that we go through. We want to see your mutual fund statements and your bank statements and your brokerage fund statements and your 401ks and your insurance policies. And we also want to see your legal documents. Like I said, we know what we're looking at. We can't recommend, how to write them, but we can recommend, hey, go see, one of our attorneys that we work with, and maybe they can make some recommendations for you based on what you've told us and what we've put together for you. So again, legal documents are very important. What else, Ryan? I think
I have a good question. Why do you think this happens? It's hard to, when people are younger, when I think of somebody like Heath Ledger taken too early, I can understand maybe saying I'm busy, I can't get to my planning, but when you get a little bit older, I'm just wondering, do you think I didn't even look to see if they have financial advisors, if they have accountants. You would think everybody would be pushing them to do something so important. I'm wondering, where do you think the puzzle piece misses in terms of everybody getting their documents ready?
Yeah, people just, they're never going to die. Everybody else dies, but, not you. And people just don't want to, think about that fact. Usually when we do financial planning, people will plan for something that has a deadline. You'll plan for your taxes because they got to be in by April 15th. Typically when we do special needs planning, they'll plan for that because, they know that, when they pass away, their child is going to need somebody else to take care of them. So that's sort of a softer deadline, but there's a definite need for it. For other stuff, when there's not that hard deadline or there's not that hard need, it's really tough to get people to take that first step. That's why I would say, in our process, we go through the whole thing, and legal planning is a part of it. And we're more than happy to go through what we know with people to make sure that they understand that, and the beneficiary reviews and all that stuff. But outside of that, I don't really know why people will do that. But maybe listening to this will help.
I hope so.
Yeah. So there you go. Read the headlines and learn from them. Somebody with Aretha Franklin's wealth of $80 million and the advisors that she had around her, wasn't like she died suddenly. She had a long illness, so there was plenty of time to do the planning. So just learn from things like this, and if you have any questions about estate planning or legacy planning or financial planning in general, feel free to get in touch with us. We'll post some things to our show notes so that you can download some documents, and if there's anything we do here in the office that can help you out, please feel free to get in touch. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time. Good.
Good.